Thank you everybody for joining. We have a big group here, so let me introduce myself. My name is Tony Kai. I'm a director of sales engineering. She got a new title this month, and escalations. In the past, Nerdio's never, kind of stuck to our lanes in terms of supporting our product, but every single day we get customers asking for things outside of Nerdio, and we've kind of always in the past said no, that's you got to go figure that out somewhere else. We now have an official escalation path for things like that. So I'm excited to share that information. For those who don't know me, I started out in the MSP world. I was a systems engineer, VCIO role for about 8 years at an MSP out of New York. And for the last 6 years, I've been at Nerdio at various different roles, starting out in sales. But over the last 2 years, I've moved over to more of a sales engineering role. So that's a little bit about myself. We're going to go and jump right in. So, for those who are new to Nerdio, Nerdio's mission has always been to empower MSPs to build successful cloud practices, originally with just Azure, but in the last year and a half, we've expanded our scope out to more than just Azure, right? So we're thinking about the entire Microsoft Cloud from an MSP standpoint. So what that looks like is we call this the cloud management for modern MSPs, right? So back 5-6 years ago when Nerdio started, we really only managed Azure infrastructure, Azure virtual desktops, and Windows 365. But over the last year and a half, we've expanded out to cover more scope, right? Intune, Entra, M365, and Microsoft Defender, right? So before we get started, right, because this webinar is really all about Intune, I kind of want to get a feel for where everybody's at in terms of their Intune journey and adoption, right? We held a webinar about 2 months ago introducing Intunes as a concept, right? But if you're attending today's webinar, the assumption is that the basics about Intune. We don't need to cover those things, but I want to know sort of where you are in terms of your adoption with Intune, right? So pick A if you haven't started at all, right? You're just kind of just plain old haven't started, not one customer enrolled in Intra and Intune. Select B if you're just kind of getting started, right? Maybe you have 1 or 2 customers in Intune, but you want to learn a lot more about it. Pick C if you're just enrolling customers at endpoints into Intune so far, right? And then D, which is the most mature part of this journey, is you're enrolling endpoints to Intune and Intra, and you're managing device configuration, right, per customer, right? So I'll give everybody a few more seconds to answer that again. All right, we got over 100 submissions so far. Come on, guys. Only 65% of you guys have answered. All right, and I'll kind of move on, right? We have 120 submissions so far, so it's good enough sample size. So, okay, good. I kind of didn't really have an expectation coming in here, but I figured some of you guys have not started yet. A lot of people are just getting started, and it's a good amount of you who sort of been in the weeds and maybe realize some of the pain points I'm about to kind of show you today, and how sort of Nerdio solves some of those issues. But here's your results. 15% not at all, 35% just getting started, 14% just getting sort of the basics, right, enrolling a device, and then a good chunk of you guys, 35% almost, are enrolling devices and managing devices with configurations and stuff. So hopefully that kind of shows you guys where everybody else is at as well. Okay, so we'll get started, right? So Nerdio has been managing Azure for a long time, right? If you guys are here, chances are you've used us to manage some sort of Azure. Like I said, the last year and a half, we've kind of dove, head deep into sort of Intune and expanding our scope. All right, so today we're really going to focus on just the top 3 items on this list, right? We're going to manage tenant configuration, we're going to manage Intune policies for devices, and application management, right? We are coming out with a remote session control coming out very soon. I was on the QA site last week, and we have a working deployment of a remote session we call Console Connect. Right? We have Defender enrollment. So if you're looking to maybe move out of CrowdStrike, right, and into Defender, we have features in here that kind of help you enroll your devices seamlessly. Defender settings configuration for sure, right? If you're using patch management for Intune, using the update rings, we can manage those. We have some real-time information notifications. So, for example, if a customer's device falls out of compliance, we can send your email, or NOC team an email indicating the device and the details. And if we repeatedly see that device sort of staying out of compliance, and it ties back to the same device ID, we'll ignore it, right, for the day, right? So if you go and fix that, you won't see another alert come in. Working a lot of compliance and reporting KQL dashboards, right? Kusto Queries is the reporting engine that Microsoft has. There is some code involved in knowing how to query Kusto Query to get the results you want, and Nerdio is going to create a chatbot that's integrated to your current chatbot that's going to allow you to ask it pretty much what you want to see, like how many users are logging in from these devices between this day and this day. You can just basically ask the chatbot that, and we'll spit you out a Kusto query you can run, and then gives you sort of the report. We have a announcement where we're kind of integrated with CIS, officially partnered with them. More details to come on that, but there's going to be some policies that are baked into Nerdio that comes from CIS directly. But yeah, that's really the scope of how Nerdio manages the Microsoft Cloud in terms of Intune, Defender, and Intra. Right. So if you kind of look at this diagram, pretty much anything you do inside of Nerdio, you can kind of set it to sync across multiple customers, making your lives much easier in terms of deploying desired state configuration or just policies to your customers and devices. Okay, so today's agenda, we're going to kind of split this up into sort of 3 parts, right? I'm going to basically take you through a tenant that is completely empty. It's got no Intune configuration at all. We're going to slap Nerdio on top of it, and then we're going to apply what we call solutions baselines. And so solutions baselines are tenant-based configurations, right? So if you kind of look at Microsoft's modern workplace, there is settings that you can configure if you go to entra.microsoft.com. There's settings you can go to configure per tenant, of course, right, at intune.microsoft.com. And then the third place you might set settings from a tenant perspective is Defender or security.microsoft.com if you're managing Defender. So solutions baselines kind of help cover desired state configuration of those, having you do it in one place and then apply it across the board. We're going to play with device enrollment. I know most people sort of enroll a device by going to the settings, accounts, work in school, and then adding the account there. Of course, that's a good way to do it. But if you're doing something at scale, I think a lot of people don't know that there's a tool called Microsoft Configuration Designer, which we'll install on our computer today. We'll create an onboarding package, and this onboarding package could be ran in any location on any device, right, to help you onboard that device into Intune. Super easy, right? So we're not going to play with the company portal or anything like that. We're going to show you a new, much easier MSP-friendly way to deploy Intune across your devices at scale. And we'll spend a little time talking about sort of methodologies for migrating profiles. If you're coming from a device that's domain joined, maybe you want to switch that over to Intune. There's tools out there. There's different methodologies. It's actually a document in the resources page in On24 that you can download to basically show you the different methods to move a profile from a previous domain or a work group into Intune. And then the second half of this, we're going to kind of play with Intune policies. I'd say this is like the hardest part of any MSP's Intune journey is to create these policies, right? Know what to create, where to start, and how to actually create a policy for a desired setting. So we're going to go over that. I have like 4 different examples that are completely unrelated to each other that we're going to actually go and create 4 policies and kind of show you the ins and outs of how to create a policy, how to import them into Nerdio. We're going to go and then create policy baselines. So a policy baseline in Nerdio is essentially a group of policies we can kind of group together. We can call it like HIPAA policies or MSP baseline policies or FINRA policies. So next time you have a healthcare customer, you might want to just take that HIPAA group of 20 or 30 different policies and assign them. That way you don't have to manually go to each tenant and configure them. Then we're going to assign them to the customer and then assign them to a device in a user group and show you how that works. And then In the third section, we're going to play with some applications, right? So MSPs are great at patching Windows, but almost nobody's really good at patching third-party applications, right? These CVEs and vulnerabilities that we see on a day-to-day basis come from many cases third-party applications that are unpatched, right? So we have a feature called Unified App Management, which I'll show you how to use. Super easy to use, and I'll kind of show you sort of what's happening behind the scenes and how it really works. And then, yeah, we'll kind of go through that, and that'll be the end of the hour. So step one, right, the beginning, is we're going to go through solutions baselines. Solutions baselines, again, is to help you to set up the desired state configuration for your customers. And then after that, we'll create a provisioning package and then enroll some endpoints. All right, so I'm going to get out of PowerPoint and go and share my screen. So in a second, you should see my screen pop up, and you should see the Nerdio page. Liz, can you confirm you see it? Here we go. I think I see it now.
Yep,
okay.
I can see it.
Perfect. All right. So yeah, this is the Nerdio page. All right. And so let me kind of explain what solutions baselines are. Right. So if you want to set up Intune, there's a lot of little things you have to actually set up. Right, configurations, right, for Intune, it needs to talk to Entra. So when you're joining a device to Entra, you're really only joining it to Entra, and you need certain configurations set up the right way so it auto enrolls that Entra joined machine and enroll it into the MDM, which is Intune. So Intune is Microsoft's RMM tool, right? There's a lot of little settings in here, right? So when you start up, start out with Intune, each customer is going to have these settings configured exactly the right way. Otherwise, the whole thing doesn't work. So in Nerdio, we call that solutions baselines. So if you click on solutions baselines on the left-hand menu, you'll see here that I have two solutions baselines. So this one's called solutions baselines for Intune. We'll focus mostly on that today. And if I go to the right side of that and I hit the drop down, I'm going to click on configure baseline. You can kind of see here that's a lot of enrollment settings, right? So these are the things that we've hand plucked out of the Intune portal and kind of put it front and center for you guys to kind of decide how you want these settings to be, right? So you can kind of set these settings however you like. Specify which groups can join to Entra, require an MFA, yes or no. You want to restrict how many people can join per user. There's a lot of things you have to kind of decide, right? And these are kind of built out using the different tabs up top. I won't go into this in detail. We did do a webinar on this about 2 months ago, which is in the resources area in On24 in this webinar. Yeah, these are the things that we've kind of decided that are important for an MSP to set up. And as Nerdio kind of updates new versions of Nerdio, there's going to be more and more settings that will allow you to configure, right? So once you've configured everything, you would hit save and close. And all you have to do is then click on assign and assign this policy essentially to your customer, right? So today's demo, we're going to actually be playing with this customer here. We call it Elite Airplane Services. It's just a demo tenant. Again, there's no Intune policies in it. We added it in, but there's nothing in it, right? So what I'm going to do, let's go to Solutions Baselines and say I want to set this customer up for Intune. I just won them as a new managed services customer. I'm going to click on Assign and click Add Assignment, and then we're just going to click on Elite Airplane Services and click Add, Confirm, and hit Apply and Close. So it's just a confirmation screen, and I'm going to process this solutions baselines, hit OK, and that's it, right? So this solutions baseline is assigned. So whatever the state of that tenant was before, it's going to get overwritten by what you've built here, right? So if you have multiple customers kind of set up here, you can kind of see it in a quick view, how healthy each customer is or how the configuration aligns with your desired state configuration. Over in on this little summary here, if you go to the status page, it'll break down and kind of give you more information. Okay, so it's telling you that these things aren't aligned. It'll take like 5 minutes or so to basically go through everything and realign everything. And the same concept exists for Defender. Right, if you're managing Defender, same idea. Right, there's a lot of things to configure for Defenders to talk to Entra, to share secure score, and all those things that it needs to share, so it can work together seamlessly. Once you've set those settings up, you can then click on Assign, and we're going to do the same thing to Elite Airplane Services. All right, we're not going to really talk too much today about Defender, but the concepts are very similar. So that's solutions baselines, right? We're coming out with more solutions baselines for these categories and additional solutions baselines in Nerdio Manager for MSP 5.4. What's going to come out is solutions baselines for Entra. So all the Entra settings and security hardening settings are going to come out in 5.4. But yeah, that's solutions baselines, essentially setting up your desired state configuration for all your customers. The next time you onboard a new customer, you don't have to spend hours and look through documentation and do it differently every single time. You set your baseline here, applied it across the board, and now you don't have to worry about it. Okay. So the next step we're going to do, now that your tenant has been configured the right way, is we're going to go and create this provisioning package like I talked about, right? So what is a provisioning package, right? So a lot of MSPs enroll devices by just going to the computer and going to work in school and adding the Entra account as a primary user there and rebooting the machine, right? So that's certainly a way to do it, but each user has a finite amount of times they can do that before you hit that limit, right? You can increase that limit, but the idea is that if you're doing this in bulk, let's say you ordered 20 computers and it's sitting at your bench, you want to just enroll them really fast. I'll show you how to use the Windows configuration designer to set up that package. So if you've never done this before, you want to follow along, just go to your start menu, and we're going to go to the Microsoft Store. Right? Microsoft Store that exists in Windows. You're going to open that, and you're going to search for something called Windows Configuration Designer. And it's a tool that has a 1.5 or 4.1 rating, right? I'm going to hit install, and it's going to install in this tool for me. Should have some pretty fast internet here, and it is installing. Okay, so once it's installed, I don't need this anymore. It's installed now. I'm going to get out of the Microsoft Store, and I'm going to open this package. Right. So again, it's called Windows Configuration Designer. Looks like this. And so that's the page that you're looking at, right? So the first thing we're going to do, and you kind of notice that this tool is not just made for enrolling stuff to Intune. You can set up HoloLens, kiosk mode, Windows devices, Surface Hub, so other items as well. But we're going to just use this to provision a desktop, create a package for it. All right. So we're going to click on the first top left icon here, provisioning a desktop package. And the project name, I'm going to call it Intune Webinar. All right, and I'm going to hit finish. And what this will do is walk me through a bunch of steps on how I want to enroll my device, right? So it's telling me I have to now configure a device name. So maybe device name is airplane. And I'm going to do a serial number, right? So I'm going to do a wildcard. Serial, and do a wildcard percentage again, right? You can kind of do whatever you want. You can do random numbers and up to 5 characters. You can kind of control how that is. Instructions are up here. If you want to upgrade your device, so let's say you bought a bunch of Surface devices and they came with Home Edition and you have like a volume license key or something like that, and you want to upgrade them to Enterprise, you can just type the key in here. This device is made for maybe school use and you don't want to, when you turn on your computer for the first time, it kind of remembers the last person's account. If you don't want that to remember the last person's account, you can check this box and it'll just prompt for the username and the password every single time. You can make it uninstall pre-installed software if you like. We're going to leave those blank. Hit next on the bottom right corner. And this is also really cool if you want to specify the SSID, right? Wi-Fi, maybe it's the SSID, and it's a WPA personal. I can just type in the password in here, right? And so that way a device enrolls and Intune will actually inject the SSID and password. So it can automatically connect to Wi-Fi as soon as the computer reboots. All right, so we're going to turn this off for now in the demo. Account management, right? This is important, right? Do you want to enroll into regular Active Directory and Entra ID, right, which is Azure AD, or just supply it with the local admin account? So I'm going to click on Enroll in Entra ID or Azure AD. This tool hasn't updated, right? I'm going to refresh my AAD credentials. So this is going to make it so the package gets, I do have to enter a global admin account for me to get the token initially. But let's say you've replaced that password and you're going back in and editing the existing package, you may want to refresh your token. So in our case, we're going to always want to say yes to that. All right, I'm going to click on Get Bulk Token. and it's going to get me a prompt to basically type in a account that has global admin. So I'm going to that account in here now. Okay, I don't need any of this. I just say no. Kind of validate it, and bulk token fetched successfully, right? So this account doesn't need to have a Intune license or anything. It just needs to be global admin. And here, optionally, we can create a local admin account. So it's a good idea to do that. And hit next. Now, if you wanted to, you can add a bunch of applications and add certs and stuff, right? But we're not going to do that. We're going to hit finish. And if I want, I can password protect my package as well. So only admins could run it, right? But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to hit create, and my package is done. So it's here. Okay. So this package, it looks like this. It's a bunch of files. And the important file is this one right here, intunewebinar.ppkg. That's the one you want to basically copy and put on a desktop. All right, so we're going to actually use this package now and enroll it into a device that is not joined to Intune. So what I've done here is I have created a machine inside of Azure. Let's kind of move this over here. And this machine right here is a machine that has just been provisioned from Azure. It's just a Windows 10 normal machine, right? So I'm going to go and download this file and go and open this VM the first time. Okay. So this is a brand new Windows 11 machine. You can see that I've never even gone through sort of the initial accepting the end user license agreement phase. Right. It's a normal, fresh, clean Windows 11 machine from Azure, representing a physical device. Right. So like I said before, a lot of people just go to the accounts page, go to work in school, and kind of add a work account here this way. And you're not wrong to do it this way, right? But if you're doing it in bulk, it's much better to use the package tool, right? So so if you're doing it this way, just make sure you don't just put your email address in here. You always select join this device to Entra. That's what you want to select. We're not going to use this method. What we're going to do is basically copy this package onto the desktop of this machine. All right, I'll probably just create a folder for it first. Join. Paste this in here. Right, here it is. Okay, so now this package could be put on a file share. It could be put on SharePoint. It really doesn't matter where this package lives, right? It could be put on a USB even, right? If you put it on a USB, the Windows will know that there's a package available for it to use. So that package shows up here. Go to accounts and access work in school. You see it says add or remove a provisioning package. You'll see it here if you stick a USB in with this file, right? So what we're gonna do is just double click it, and it's just kind of giving you, it's a package from a trusted source. What is this device gonna do? It's kind of giving you everything, and you're gonna hit yes, add it, and then all it says is this machine will shut down in 1 minute, right? So you can see here that the package is now recognized properly in the add or remove provisioning package section. And this machine will reboot. Now, upon a reboot, the device is now joined to Intune, right? So I am going to just wait for it to reboot, and then when it comes back up, I'll just do a refresh inside of the Intune portal so you can kind of see that device show up, right? Again, it's going to rename my device as well, right? So my computer right now is called Intune VM. When it comes back up, it's going to be called like Intune Webinar -serial number or something, right? It's going to rename my computer for me as well. Okay, so I'm going to minimize that. And that's basically how you create a package. So you can kind of reuse this package anytime you want to enroll a device, and you don't have to kind of type in somebody's username and password for that person to be the primary user of that device. And so that device is rebooting. And when the device comes back up, the first person that signs into that device that is an Entra ID user becomes that automatic primary user for that device. So that's kind of how that works. Pretty straightforward. Once a device comes up, you can kind of continue using it, right? Any policies and applications that you've set up inside of Intune now automatically get pushed down to that device. Okay. So if I click on Elite Airplane Services, and I go to Intune and I go to Devices, this is not the right one. It's a different one. But if I hit refresh, once that device comes up, you should see another device here with a different name. Okay. And sometimes it will show up here before it actually shows up in the Intune portal. And that's just because APIs usually get information faster than the Intune portal itself. You kind of see here on the Intune portal, I have the same device that I'm showing here, but when that device reboots, it will come in up here before it shows up in the Okay. So we can talk about some methodologies for migrating your profiles, right? You can kind of use a tool called Forensit to basically take your profile. I'm sure you've all used it before. It's called Profile Wiz. We'll change your computer SIDs and stuff to kind of match your new profile and just move that if you want to do that. But I pretty much start clean. You can do a backup and restore. You can use OneDrive no folder move if you like, right? So those are all various methods. And again, more information is in the resource section in the webinar. Okay. So we will head back over to the slides. Okay, so we talked about this bulk enrollment of endpoints, right? The next section is we're going to create some policies, right? So this is, again, the area where most MSPs kind of struggle with, right? You kind of look at this and say, hey, this is what I want to do, but where do I start, right? What policies do I want to initially start with? And to answer that, you kind of have to know what you want first, right? So if you kind of think about one of your legacy clients that have some GPO policies for each customer, right? This is now your opportunity for Intune, when you play in the Intune world, to have every single customer behave from a security standpoint, from a device configuration standpoint, as similar as possible to one another. That way, when you can train your help desk guys, your guys understand what your default state of configurations are, and it makes troubleshooting much easier. So I'm gonna go and share my screen again and show you how to create some simple Intune policies. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is go to intune.microsoft.com, and you're going to want to typically do this inside of your MSP's Intune portal. That's because we're going to create some policies and import them into Nerdio. And then once the policies are imported into Nerdio, we can then take those policies, put them in a group, and then distribute the group to multiple customers. All right, so if you've never created a policy before, it's actually not as scary as you think. First step would be to go to the left menu here after you've logged into intune.microsoft.com and to your MSP's portal. You can create a separate portal if you want, or a tenant for just the configuration of these policies if you like. But here I'm just doing this inside my MSP's tenant. Okay, so you're gonna click on devices. You're gonna click on configuration. So configuration policies are the most common type of policies. There's compliance, there's conditional access. There's many different types of policies, and you can see that in the Nerdio portal. If you click on policy management, there's actually many types of policies that Nerdio can kind of work with, right? So conditional access, security baselines, compliance, configuration profiles. We'll spend a lot of time in here today. If you do Defender, a lot of the Defender policies are over here, right? So I'll show you how to create one from scratch, and we're gonna do like maybe 4 examples, right? The first example is maybe you want to create a policy that automatically hides the control panel from the end user, right? You don't want the end user tweaking and tinkering with the control panel, so let's just create a policy to block that. All right, so again, I'm going to go to devices, go to configuration, click create. The platform I'm going to use, remember, Intune can manage Android devices, iOS, iPads, Macs, Windows. We're fixated on Windows today, so we're going to click Windows 10. And I typically use the settings catalog. The settings catalog is it's got a really nice search function. It allows me to search for any thing I want, right? So if you're not sure what Intune can do, simply search for it. If there's a policy for it, it'll show up and you can configure it right then and there. So it's policy name, I'm gonna call it Intune webinar. I don't know hide control panel. Next, and I'm gonna click on add settings. Now you have to be aware that some settings are user-based only, and some settings are computer-based, right? So very similar to GPOs, how they're user-based settings and computer-based settings. Same applies here, right? So if I again, if I don't know what I'm doing and I just want to see if there's a setting available, right? I'm just gonna type in control panel, hit search, and you can see that there's a lot of templates already available for control panel. So if I click control panel, and I want to hide specific items, I can do that. And you can see these are user policies, right? Let's say I want to hide these items, right? I can hide, like, I don't know, add or remove programs. You'd have to type that in here, right? Or show specific items only. I'm going to type that in here. I don't have a control panel. Yeah, if you don't know what to put in, you can kind of look at the little bubble icon. It'll tell you exactly how to configure the setting, right? But once you configure the setting, yeah, bad example. I don't know any off the top of my head. Let's see. Disallow control panel items. I don't know, user accounts or something, right? So we'll turn some of these things on. I'm just going to configure the policy. So I probably didn't do that right. But the idea is you would search for the setting, configure the setting, right? All you have to do is just create that setting to begin with, right? So we're going to hit create. We didn't assign it to anybody, any groups or anything. We create. And if I do a refresh, I type in Intune webinar, you can kind of see that this is now sitting here, right? So I'm going to go and make a few more just so I can import them all at the same time. I'm going to create a second policy, again, Windows-based. And the second one, we can maybe play with Chrome, right? So maybe the policy name Intune webinar hide incognito. Right? Is the setting, right? I'm gonna hit next. Again, click on the settings area, and I'm just gonna type in right. So if I type in incognito, it shows me that there's two policies here, right? And one of the policies says, you know, is incognito a mode available? Yes or no, right? So we'll leave it disabled. So meaning they can't do Control Shift N to open anything incognito. Hit save. Next. Again, I don't need to assign it to anything or anybody. I'm just using the Intune interface to create the policy. Behind the scenes, this policy is really just a big JSON file. So I'll kind of show you that as well. Right. So again, if I hit refresh, you'll see that I have the hide control panel, hide incognito mode. Create a third policy. This one, maybe I'll set it up to inject some Wi-Fi settings, right? So call this Intune webinar Wi-Fi connection settings. Right, I'm gonna hit add. Many things. Let me just type in Wi-Fi. Go. It is telling me that this needs to be set up somewhere else. So I'm gonna click on this, and it's gonna ask me to re-enter some of the information. Intune our Wi-Fi connection. Again, I'm doing this so I can configure the Wi-Fi setup. Right. So there's the Wi-Fi SSID. I'll call it the Elite Airplane. Wi-Fi connection name. All right, automatic connect within its range, yes. Preferred available, yes. Connected if it's not broadcasting SSID, no. You know, you can meter the connection limit, what type of connection it is, right? Pre-share key, you can inject all that. Now, here's the thing, right? I'm actually specifying what the SSID and the password is for this policy, and I'm creating this policy. Now, if I take this policy and I want to use it for a different customer, it's going to actually inject the same SSID and password, which I don't want, right? So Nerdio has the ability to kind of take specific things from a setting and create a variable from it. So you can take this one setting that you've created, apply it across 100 different customers, and when it applies to 100 different customers, the SSID and the password is actually unique to that customer, which is really cool. So you literally, once you've imported a policy, you never have to go and you really only have one policy to maintain from that point on. Okay, so I've created a third policy, and maybe the last one. This one could be interesting, right? Let's create a endpoint security policy, an antivirus policy. So let's say you're a customer of CrowdStrike. We had a horrible weekend, and you're thinking twice about which EDR solution you use. And let's say you stumble upon Defender, which is, by the way, rated very high in Gartner charts. It's rated actually above Sentinel-1 and CrowdStrike itself now. It came out like about a month ago. But let's say you want to create a policy for Windows 10 and above, and you want to control how Defender rolls out updates to you. So we know that in the CrowdStrike scenario, maybe it was due to AI testing or something like that, right? But basically a patch came out seemingly without being tested, and let's say you don't want that to happen with Defender, right? So there's a Defender subcategory called Defender Update Controls, and I'm gonna hit Create. So in Webinar, Defender Update Control. Next, and you configure that policy. So maybe the engine gets the broad update, right? The platform gets the broad update, but security intelligence maybe get the stage version or something like that, right? You can kind of control. There's different stages of Defender virus definitions, CDR definitions. So I'm gonna hit next. Next. Again, I don't need to sign it to anything. Just hit save. All right. So I've created 4 policies just to kind of give you guys an idea of like how to create these policies. It's not hard. You just have to know what you're looking for and simply search, right? So now that you've done that, you're going to come back to Nerdio, and we're going to import some of these policies, right? So configuration profiles. I'm going to click on configuration profiles in the bottom right-hand corner. I'm going to go click on import, and of course I can import a policy from a customer if I really wanted to, right? But I'm just going to import it from the place I just created it. Right? So if I type in Intune Webinar, you can see that I've created these 4 policies, or 3 policies, and I'm going to hit next, import them. So once they're imported, you can kind of see what this policy is doing. So I'm going to actually import the Defender one as well. So I'm going to click on the endpoint security policies, go to the bottom right, import, type in Intune, Defender update control. This is the thing I just created to help control how my EDR definitions are rolled out. Import. So I have the policies I just created here. And of course, Nerdio out of the box comes with lots of policies to help you get started with, right? You're not told to go and fill this information out. There's a lot of policies here, including ones from CIS, from Microsoft, that are basic best practices. So if I kind of take a look at one of these CIS ones in the Intune portal, you kind of see how many different settings are already adjusted for you. So if I go to configuration, I search for CIS. If you look at the Windows 11 Enterprise Computer Settings policy, this particular policy has over 350 different settings, and I've already tuned according to CS benchmark best practices for Windows 11 device. So yeah, you don't have to start from scratch if you don't want to, right? We have lots of resources to help you kind of start from best practices if you like, but yeah, just I think showing you guys how to create one from scratch is also important. Okay, so again, we've imported these policies into Nerdio, and what we're going to do now is go and create a policy baseline. So policy baseline is just a group of policies. Right? You can see here that I've already got some as examples, right? But we're going to create a new one, right? So let's say you're an MSP just starting out, and you like some of the pre-canned stuff we gave you, some of the CIS stuff that's there. We've created 4 additional policies, and we want to just group them together. So when we add a new, let's say, healthcare customer, we just apply those 20 different settings down to that customer, and now every single healthcare customer from here on out that's enrolled to Intune will behave the same. Right? I'm going to add a new baseline. I'm going to call this Intune Webinar. Baseline. Right, call it that. Save. Scroll down, you can see it's completed. I'm gonna hit refresh up here, and you'll see this policy down here. Now this red shield just simply means that this policy baseline hasn't been backed up yet. You notice there's the recovery services section in Nerdio now. Nerdio backs up all your policies within Nerdio, as well as the policies and assignments within each customer once a day, and we hold that for 30 days. Right. So if you ever screw something up, or let's say you've enforced MFA even on your GA account and you can't get back in, Nerdio can allow you to just restore to a previous point in time and get you back into your account. So here's the policy we just created, baseline. We're going to click on the drop down here and click on edit policies. And we're just going to add those policies we created earlier, right? And on top of that, some additional policies, right? So ACSE is basically the CIS of Australia. So they have something called it's like a CIS, their own standards, something 8 or something. But they have one for Edge, for Office, and for Windows. We'll import those. Right. We're going to import some conditional access policies if you like. We have I could have just tagged them from imported. That way I don't have to fill this screen here, but let me just add these first. Add the ones I've selected so far. I'm going to add some more. Search for them by Intune Webinar. Here they are. If you want, you can select evaluate assignments. This is also super important as well. If you evaluate the assignments, Nerdio calls out, and every time we deploy a policy, we can also even check to see if a policy is even assigned, right? So it's one thing to have a policy copied down to your customer level and exactly the way it looks here, but it's another thing to basically then take that policy and assign it to a device or computer group or user group. If you have the policies copied down but you're not using it, it's essentially useless, right? So we want to evaluate assignments, hit add. And then when I'm done creating my group, again, this group could be hundreds of policies, and each one of these policies can have hundreds of different settings, right? You just group them together. An automatic sync type just means whenever you make a new change in Nerdio in the future, let's say we just made a policy for OneDrive and OneDrive adds a new feature tomorrow, we go back to the Intune portal and edit that same existing policy. Nerdio will take that, import that, and then push that out to all your customers. And click. Right, so we're going to click on apply and close and hit OK. So we've essentially just added all those individual policies into this policy group or policy baseline we call Intune Webinar. Okay, so here it's in progress. Wait for it to finish. On details. Going through all that. And in a second, you'll see, here it's got the 9 policies, right? So click back again, you see 9 policies here, and all I have to do is then click assign. And by the way, before I click assign, I'm going to show you again that the Intune policy page in my Intune portal is completely empty. Right, so I go to Intune portal here, go to devices again, and go to configuration profiles. You see that I've, I guess somebody else did something to it recently, but I only have 2 policies here, right? So pull that over, and I'm going to set the assignment, select the airplane lead services, confirm, hit apply and close. Sure. Okay, so what I expect is when this is finished, my Intune configuration page for the client, or this is the customer's Intune configuration. You can see that I'm on a different edge profile here. This is for the customer. And when this copy comes through, it's going to inject all 9 of these policies across. Okay, so show you that. Refresh. It's still pending, hasn't done it yet. Complete it. All right, so here you see that this customer has more policies now, right? And these are policies from different areas. So if I click additional access, all the policies that were in that group fell into different locations. So if I go to Defender policies, you'll see that the Defender one, these are all happen to just be the configuration policies in that group. Okay. So let's say in the future you go and update one of these policies and you want to change one of them, right? So let's go back to this and let's play with that. So you remember when I was creating the policy to hide incognito mode for Chrome? I say I want to do something different now. I want to add to that policy, and I'm gonna go find that policy itself. In our it's the incognito mode I want, right? So I'm gonna click on that, and I'm gonna edit that policy to do something else. Right? Add a new setting and maybe disable Chrome extensions. Because that's another area where maybe um, you don't want the end user just willy-nilly installing their own Chrome extensions, right? So, right, so you gotta find it, right? So block Chrome extensions from being installed. I'm gonna just check that box and then hit OK. There's the Chrome extensions, and let's say I enable this capability to block Chrome extensions. And all I have to do is hit save again. Save again. I'm not applying to any this policy to any user yet. I'm just using this as a way to kind of edit the policy. So once you edit that policy, you come back to Nerdio, and you're going to hit the drop down here and ask it to check the source tenant, right? Now, Nerdio does this automatically every couple of hours, but if you made a change and you want Nerdio to realize there's a change, you can check the hit that little box, and we'll force a real-time sync. Okay, so you can see in the bottom, force sync is happening, and when this is done, you'll notice this icon changed. This icon is telling me that the policy I have in Nerdio matches the location I've imported this from. So once this is done, you'll see that this icon will change to something like this. This one simply just says, hey, wherever you pulled this from before, there's now a newer version of this policy. You want to update it. So you see what happened here? This one changed. And now it's telling me that there's a newer version of that policy that I've changed. You want to update it. So you can see I have version 1 right now. I click on the drop down, click on update. And for the change log, I'm just going to add block Chrome extension as an example. All right, hit update. And now you can see I have 2 versions of it. Right? I can always check to see who's assigned to what version. I can roll forward and roll back. Right? Nerdio keeps track of every single change I've ever done. And so because this individual policy is part of this baseline, I don't have to do anything. Automatically, all my customers will now get that additional setting, which blocks third-party Chrome extensions from being used in Microsoft Chrome or Google Chrome. So that's kind of how that capability is used here. Okay. And for the sake of time, I'm just going to jump over to the third section, which really talks about like how to use third-party updates, right? So actually, I'm going to go back to stop sharing. Okay, so we just talked about the iterative improvements, right? How to maintain third-party applications, right? So for those who are not familiar, Nerdio has an engine that allows you to update any and all third-party applications without an agent, right? So the idea here is that you may have customers with software that is stored and saved on a file server somewhere. Maybe you have just simply a list of applications the customer uses. So every time you onboard a new customer, you go and manually download the application. Applications can kind of live anywhere, right? So the idea is that Nerdio kind of helps you connect your tenants and your customers' devices to the repository of where those applications live. So you can see here we're connected to the Microsoft Store. Microsoft Shell Apps is an innovation that we have. Something we're very excited to announce in the next version of Nerdio 5.3 is the ability to update and install QuickBooks without human intervention, right? It's all Shell Apps based. So you can kind of tell Nerdio to basically update and install QuickBooks and update critical updates throughout the year without completely automatically. We're connected to Winget, which is a Microsoft community-based repository where applications live as well. We've connected ourselves to the iOS store, Google Play Store. And if you have applications that are maybe homebrewed or something like that, you can create and upload your own applications to your MSP's own repository or the customer's own repository. Right? So whether your customer has some iOS devices, Android devices, virtual desktops, Windows 365, or physical devices joined by Intune, you can create a policy that says customer A uses Zoom, they use Chrome, they use Teams, right? Customer B uses GoodNotes or whatever their application stack is. Nerdio will make sure there's an update for it every 15 minutes. We'll check all these repository locations to see if there's an update. If there is, we'll silently install it for you, right, on each device. So I'll kind of show you how that works. Share my screen again. So it sounds pretty cool, right? And so behind the scenes, we're using Winget as the engine. So if you guys don't know what Winget is, if you want, you can just open up command prompt on your local device and just type in Winget space upgrade. Just a simple command. Every computer has it. You don't need to install anything or anything like that, right? So this is basically telling me that on my local computer where I'm running this webinar from, I have 12 software that is not the latest version that can be updated using Winget. So if I really wanted to, I could just type in this command, Winget space upgrade minus all, hit enter. I'm not going to do it now, but it's going to go and silently install these applications and update them for me without me downloading them or figuring out where they are or whether or not there's a new version of that software. Because that's really one of the weaknesses when managing applications in Intune. Is if you're managing it per customer, you have to A, know there's an update, B, go and download the update. If it's an exe file, you have to go through the Intune Win conversion tool, convert it into an acceptable format, then upload it to Intune. You got to do that for every single application, for every single customer, and keep that up to date, right? So that's an impossible task. And so what Nerdio has done is created this application management interface, right? We call it applications. It's called the unified catalog. And you can see here that under the repository, we already have a lot of these things connected, right? So you kind of see here, if I go and search for anything I want, let's say search for Teams, for example, it not only gives me the applications I'm familiar with, but it's going to look at all the repositories I have here and pull up every single thing that has the word Teams in it, including applications I've never even heard of. So if that happens to be the app you want, you just hit the little star button here. It marks it as a favorite, and it shows up here. You can kind of see here. Let me show you some applications. So I've marked these as favorites, and like 7-Zip, you can see here QuickBooks 2023. And if I wanted to, I could just click that application and assign it to an account, right? And then from that account, assign it to a customer, and that's how basically your applications get updated by itself, right? So let's just pick a few. Let's say you have 7-Zip, 8x8 Work, and Acrobat Pro, and I'm going to bulk assign this to all my accounts. Click on assign selected. It's already set up to all my accounts, right? Which is including the Elite Airplane Services one, right? And when I do that, I'm just going to go to accounts and assign this policy. Go to the Elite Airplane Services section. By the way, all those policies I've imported before now shows up here. So my configuration profiles. And here's where you basically set up your groups, right? So if you've never set up your groups before, I would go to groups, and I'm going to create a device group. Let me check to see if my Intune shows up. That device shows up now.
5-minute warning, Tony. Just checking in.
I'm sorry?
5 more minutes. Just wanted to give you a 5-minute warning.
Yeah. So let's just cut to chase. All right. So these are the policies I've kind of injected down before, right? You want to create a group, essentially. Let's just say PC device group. Right. It's got to be a security group, and you can start typing in computer names here if you like. I'm gonna save this group. And if you want, these policies we've injected down, you can take the policies here and sort of assign them, right? So let me just assign them to PC device groups. This is a PC device setting. So you got to pay attention what type of policies these are. If they're user settings, you have to create a user group and assign them by the user group instead. Yep, I'm running a little out of time a little bit here. So here's my assignments, right? So now when I've assigned this group, that's how that particular device group gets these policies. That's really all it is, right? If you have a user group, you assign user policies to the user group. And that's how devices get managed. Right, so going back to the applications, let's say I want to make sure that Google Chrome and 8x8 Work and 7-Zip is always up to date. I'm going to deploy these 3 selected applications, call it Intune webinar device group, whatever. I'm going to set the target group to my PC device group. So basically any devices that are in this group will now have these applications always check to see if they're the latest versions. If not, it'll always get updated. I'm going to pick up the iOS one. Right, hit save and close, and that's it. Now Nerdio will basically ensure that these applications to these device groups are always up to date, and there's really nothing more to it, right? So all we're doing behind the scenes is really sending out a command down to the device to really run these commands to make sure all your apps are basically up to date. That's how we're able to do it without an agent. Okay, so yeah, we have just a couple minutes left, so I want to kind of just again summarize. You create the policies, you import them into Nerdio, you deploy them out using individual policy base or by group baseline. You sign them to different customers, and then from after that, you assign the policies to different users and groups. Right, so that's the entire flow of how you use Intune, basically. Okay, so really the summarize, right? Why do you use, a lot of MSPs are using Nerdio, especially large MSPs are using Nerdio to kind of create a new offering they've never created before. And they're calling it sort of like the Intune managed services offering, right? So we all know that Intune's the future. At some point, RMM is going to be used less and less, and more people are going to use Intune. And you're going to want to use Nerdio to build consistency, right? So you can see how I've created multiple policies, put them in a group, and now you're training all your employees to basically understand what policies go out to customers, and it's going to make it very easy, much easier to basically maintain and manage your customers using consistent built desired state configuration and Intune policies. It saves a huge amount of time. So imagine just doing this manually and not catching drift and all those things, right? And it gives you the ability to operationalize Intune. I didn't really get to show you, but you can also use Nerdio as an RMM. Kind of manage, run scripts on it, remote control your Intune devices, all within Nerdio's interface. And so I have one more poll I want to kind of run through before we close out today. So I want to know, after today's session, are you more comfortable and excited to get started, right? So some of the answers you might want to pick is yes, today's session made it so easy, I want to get started today, right? Maybe select B if you're more comfortable, but it's still daunting and scary. I need more exposure and need more training. C would be, I'm not ready to get going yet. I have too much on my plate, maybe, right? Or D, after seeing this, Intune is really not for me. I'll just kind of stick to my typical domain join and to using RMM. So if you guys can, please vote. Just kind of see where we're at today. And if you guys want to set up a demo of Nerdio, talk to a partner sales executive on how to get started. They'll pull myself in and anybody on my team to help you guys get started. All those resources should be in the resource section. The partner portal access, there's a bunch of other resources as well. So yep, almost 100 people voted. Give it 2 more seconds. All right, I'm going to share the results now. So yeah, so 32 people, 32% of people want to get started. 50% of you guys still feel it's scary, right? So that's the point, right? It may still seem daunting, but we're here to help you, handhold you through the way. We'll help you onboard your first few customers with you, make sure that everything's done properly and feel good about it. And at some point, just like you're using Nerdio to onboard customers in Azure, Azure is probably much more scary before you use Nerdio than it was after. You're gonna have to start seeing the same thing, right? So, so I challenge you guys who say yes, it made it feel more comfortable, but it's still scary, to really just get started. If you never get started, you never learn, essentially, right? Okay, so I am happy to say that I've ended on time. All right, so these are some additional resources you can check out as well. And so I want to just thank you, everybody, for joining as one of our larger webinars we've seen to date. And yeah, reach out to your PSMs, reach out to me if you need help. We'll hold your hand and make sure you get it done correctly.